we're trying to fight this battle. How much better has it become, do you think, Rio, and how much further have we still got to go?
I said a while back that I was caught up in the bubble. I thought, this country, we're doing so great with the racism situation. And then a couple of situations rear their heads and you realise that it's just been put under the surface, really. It's been put under the table and just left there, really, not dealt with. And I think that the problem is when to situate the awareness, yes, I think we've had great strides with the awareness from different campaigns and the FA have taken a part in that. But I think it's then the reaction to a case when it arises. I still think we're miles away.
What needs to be better, do you think?
Well, I think the support for individual players. And listen, for instance, Mason Holgate situation with Firmino. I'm not saying Mason Holgate is right or wrong, or Firmino is right or wrong. We'll have the powers that be will decide that. But I think once this case comes out in the open, people that kick it out, show racism, red card, the PFA, they need to be the first ones knocking on these boys' doors for support. Now, I don't believe that's happened directly to these players. Go into them. I've asked a few questions at both the clubs, and these guys haven't had contact from these organisations. So that's where I think that it falls down, because whether you're on the right side of this or the wrong side of this, you need support and help to improve and to rebuild. And that doesn't happen. And we wear T-shirts all of our career, one day a year for Kick It Out. But you're meant to be there when these situations come out and happen. And these are young players. Mason Holgate's a young kid. He's a young kid at Liverpool. They need that support immediately, not after a couple of days. And the problem I have, and we're going to have the guy on the phone in a minute from Kick It Out, is that when this situation happens, a couple of days later, a week later, the FA then go to Mason Holgate and say that they're going to investigate or charge regarding a tweet sent 8 years ago.
When he was 15.
When he was 15 years old. Now, what message does that send out to any kid that feels he's on the wrong end of a racist remark and comes out and speaks? What message does that send to the next kid that happens to? I'm not going to come out and speak because they're going to dig deep into my past and find something out to assassinate my character. That's the message that's sending out. That's the worrying point for me. Who at the FA decided the timing was right to go ahead and come with an investigation like that at that time with Mason Holgate? That's the worrying factor for me, and that's what makes people then go underground and stay underground when these situations arise.
Well, you mentioned Kick It Out there. Troy Townsend joins us on the phone right now. Troy is the education manager for Kick It Out. Troy, thanks very much for joining us, first of all.
No worries at all, Jake. Good evening.
And you. I think we should start really by your reaction to what Rio has just said.
Well, there's quite a lot, to be honest. I mean, where to start in terms of I agree implicitly about the situation when a young player or any player has been the subject of abuse. And obviously we're talking of racial abuse at this moment in time, and the processes that are in place for young players and the support of anyone, you know, positive and negative in terms of what they've done. I think for clarity, what we need to understand is that Kick It Out is not a sanctioning body. So what we do, we highlight incidents that have happened either on the pitch or in the stands or wherever they may be. We report them to the FA. If the FA choose to investigate, we are not allowed to contact the clubs. We are not allowed to contact the players, and this is in the professional side of the game. We're not allowed to contact anybody until the investigation is complete. So I can understand where, you know, it's deemed that we're not doing anything, but our initial point is to flag up the incidents and to make the governing body aware. And then, like I said, they have to investigate it. Particularly in the case of Rhian Brewster, I've spent a lot of time at Liverpool, a lot of time, not only supporting Rhian, but delivering educational workshops right across the board through the academy and work closely with the academy staff. And just like Steve said, I'm well aware that Rhian is a very, very emotional young man, and he's a very emotional young man because he's been the victim of racial abuse 4 times in the last 18 months. Personally, I was worried for him. I was worried that the next one that was going to happen to him, what kind of impact it would have. And unfortunately, he's been the victim again.
Sorry to cut you, Troy, but if you see that that's happening 4 times in 18 months, this kid's under great stress.
Yeah.
How can Kick It Out and not be fighting the FA to be able to be that first point of contact as an organisation that says that we are trying to kick racism out of football? How can you not be the people that fight to say we need to be there to support this kid?
We do, Rio. We do. We do implicitly. I mean, a couple of these incidents have happened abroad. So the problem there is that it's under a completely different jurisdiction. And, I don't have to discuss with you guys what we feel about UEFA, but it's a completely different jurisdiction. So, we continue to, all I can tell you is that we continue to challenge and we continue to say that we need to be able to support the players, because I don't think the whole game gets the impact that incidents like that have on players in this day and age.
Rio, would you mind just talking us through, because your family went through an incident that happened on the pitch. It was involving your brother, but you were very involved in it. Just give us an idea of the stress and the pressure it puts on the player, the player's brother, the player's parents, the whole family.
My mum was in hospital. No one was
Because of that incident?
Because of the pressure. People coming to the house, windows being smashed, all because of this one incident. And it doesn't just affect the player. He'll have parents, he'll have brothers and sisters, cousins, friends, who will all want to be that protective armour around that one player. But they need support. And that's why it's important that the FA, the PFA, Kick It Out, these organisations fight tooth and nail to be that first port of call for these players, because it isn't just the one player, it's the network around them that is also affected. And the stress it brings to a family, my brother really probably quite never recovered from that.
Really?
So it does have a long-lasting effect on the individual, but again, the people around them.
It's really sad that you can come out and say, you've been victim of racial abuse like that, and then be the victim again when people, I don't know, on social media have a go, stop moaning or whatever, or just because they support another team, or as Rio said, come round to people's houses and smash windows when you're the victim. No wonder people want to keep it quiet, because they must be terrified at times. The stress it puts on your family, just because you've said you are the victim. I think it's absolutely disgusting.
I mean, I saw some online reports about players coming out and talking about racial abuse that they'd suffered a few years ago, Troy.
Yeah.
And some of the responses online shocked me. People were coming at them saying, you're coming out and talking about this now to get some money or to get some notoriety. There's still such a long way to go, isn't there, in this fight against racism? And perhaps, we can all talk about this, the rise of the internet. And it used to be people on the terraces. And I'm telling you now, if someone out there made a racist comment, they'd be escorted straight out of the stadium. But that doesn't stop the same person from going home and anonymously sending a message on social media. And it almost feels like that's the new frontier that we all need to be fighting, doesn't it?
The new anonymity is the internet.
It's grown over the last couple of years, and the unfortunate nature is I don't think the social media organisations have really taken it on board, Twitter, Facebook, and all those kind of platforms that could really stamp it out immediately. People talk about freedom of speech and allow people just to say what they've got to say, but, as well as I will, these things are harmful, they're hurting. Rio's right, they don't just impact on the individual, there's a bigger picture here, they impact on those that are close, and no one wants to be able to read stuff like that. But we're working with Twitter and we're working with Facebook now quite intensely to try and change that culture on social media as well. And I can only say that things, hopefully, things are changing slowly, but there has to be a collaborative kind of workforce here to make the game a better place, not just obviously to play in, but as a viewing perspective, and also for people that work in it as well.
And I know the social media sites are doing their bit. I think something we're all struggling in the studio to get our heads around, Troy, is that when a player is subjected to an incident of racial abuse, you as a supportive body are unable to contact the player. You can't ring him, you can't give him names and phone numbers of counsellors or other supportive bodies that can help him. You can't put an arm around them. You can't do any of that, no?
Well, that's the unfortunate nature of it at the moment when, there's incidents that are live at the moment and they're with the FA and they're being investigated. So basically what they're saying is if we get involved, we almost kind of compromise the situation. So until the investigation is finalised, we are not allowed to contact the players and we're not allowed to contact the club, even just to talk about their welfare. Whether the PFA do, I'm not even sure that the PFA are allowed to either. So that is something that is set in stone. It's in the rule book. And again, it's something that we're challenging to make change because of the impact that we've seen, obviously, when these incidents happen for players. But it's the nature of what happens at the moment in terms of the rules.
OK, well, it's certainly something that perhaps needs to be thought about again. Troy, thank you ever so much for your hard work and for joining us on the phone. Thank you.